So Jamar, can you let us know how being a trained comedian and a trained actor has helped you in your entrepreneur journey, and what advantages has it given you that others may not have?
No, absolutely. So one of the things that people have to understand is there is a science to acting, and there's a science to comedy. But it takes a lot more than that. But it's a great baseline to start with. So if you just look at the baseline of, okay, what it takes to understand, memorize your lines, have your pitch locked down. So when you meet someone, you're not nervous about the content that you're going to give to them.
Right.
That's very critical. I've done many sales presentations. I've done real estate. I've done inside sales for tech companies. And what I can tell you as the helicopter goes overhead is that it's about being aware. So my ability to be aware, whether I'm having a scene with a partner or whether I'm performing on stage in front of a couple of hundred people, being aware of the energy and the moods of the people allows me to really change and convey my messages differently. So I think what people need to understand is, as a business professional, is that you don't just hammer down your message down people's throats. You connect with them.
Yes.
And there's a saying in comedy that you only need material when you fail to connect with the audience. So material is just something that you use to lean on, that's a go-to, that's tried, true, and true. Same thing in sales. You'll have your scripts, but your most important factor is connection. So if you can connect with people, they're going to know you, they're going to like you, they're going to trust you, then they're going to be more receptive to the information, product, and or service that you're trying.
Yeah, so there's a point in time. There's a point in time in a lot of people's sales process where, at the very beginning, they're nervous. They actually do okay at sales because they haven't sort of become very polished. But once they become polished, they're less effective because then it's more just about what they're saying or the presentation, and less about connecting. At the beginning, they're connecting more because they're not very polished.
Absolutely.
Then they get really polished and they aren't connecting, and then they overcome that by being truly themselves and connecting with people. But then they have the knowledge, the background of being able to present it effectively at the same time that they're able to resonate and connect with somebody. So it's like that. It's like a transition when people are going through the sort of a sales process, when they're getting into sales, and then they'll become very good at the presentation, the scripting. They sort of forget about the people that they're talking to. They forget to connect with them, and they're not as effective. And then they get back to being more authentic and able to deliver the message a little bit better.
Absolutely, yeah. I like how you said process. You can tell you're from Canada with that accent.
Yeah, it comes out in a few words and a few more when I have a couple of beverages. So, so one thing, Jamarr, when I stayed at your place last year, I recall us talking about your training program, where you teach stand-up comedy to sales and marketing people. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that program? Sort of what's the process? How do you attract these people, and sort of what they get from going through your training program?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually I like the concept of book a gig at a gig. So if I'm at a comedy club, or I'm doing a college, or I'm doing a corporate event, when people come up to me, I basically add them to my funnel, add them to my list, add them to my connection to my social media. And I have conversations with people when some people say things like, "Oh man, I could never do something like that." I go, "Really? Why don't you think so?" And I let them give me all the fodder that I need to help them understand that if they work on a few things, if they correct a few things, if they improve a few things here and there, they can be more effective, not necessarily to perform on stage the way I do, but to be the best that they can be on stage, and as well as be more effective in sales and marketing opportunities. So what I would say is that most of my growth has come organically by just interacting with people and asking the right questions. And so later this year, I'm finishing up a project. We're finishing up a book. The title is still untitled. I've got a few working titles. But I'm going to do a book that is kind of like a how-to in terms of the form, not the funny. The funny is something that you got to find within yourself.
Yeah.
But the forms and the formulas, as well as my journey through the process. So it'd be kind of part how-to, part memoir, part, sales training type of book, because the thing that people don't understand is that this is a business.
Yes.
It's fun to make people laugh, but if you want to do it in a sustainable fashion that allows you to tour the country or tour the world in some cases. I was just working last night with Russell Peters, and we were talking we were talking off stage.
Fellow Canadian?
Yeah, fellow Canadian, and he's doing amazing things in the business. He's got a ton of movies coming out soon, but he was almost passionate about it. But he always knew that he had to really understand the business side of it so that he could sustain himself before his big break happened.
Yeah.
So whether your goal is to make $100,000 a year in comedy or $1 million a year, doesn't matter. You want to be compensated for the time that you spent honing that craft and learning how to start out right at the gate with it as a business. And whether you only have 5 minutes of material, there's still a way that you can get paid for your efforts in a very constructive way while bringing other people along with you to do more time.
Yeah.
So I say that all of it comes organically right now, but I'm about to get the product, get the digital product, get the book done this year, and then start with the outbound marketing via social media sites.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that, because I remember our conversation back then and me giving you a little bit of coaching advice when we talked about sort of what it is you do. It's like, the natural thing is to put together sort of a digital product of, instead of doing the one-on-one and the groups getting them, creating a digital product so you can basically impact more people's lives and then grow it from there, from selling the digital product. Then you do a larger events, and then from the larger events you naturally book the one-on-one training, which is a higher level, or you do mastermind sessions, which is that sort of natural progression. Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask you sort of where you are with that, mapping out that training program that we sort of talked about back then, when you thought it may be done, as well as the book. So it sounds like you're going to have a lot of that done this year.
Yep.
And definitely, if you need any assistance, shameless plug, 2-time #1 best-selling author, I can definitely help you with strategies on how to make that happen, and putting digital products together as well as the marketing. I mean, you already have coaches, but if there's anything I can do to help you out, definitely reach out to me. So what I'm going to do right now, Jamarr, is there's a few questions I just want to touch on from the people in the audience. And Laura wants to know, how do you bring bring that sort of connection across when you're doing a video and the only connection is the camera lens? So how do you sort of build that relationship, or how do you make that happen? Because you're a trained actor, and you need to sort of have that relationship with the camera versus when there's an actual person there.
Absolutely. So here's what I would say to that. I'm not going to give away all the secrets, but I'll give you one, Laura, because you seem like a nice gal. It's about the power of the mind. You see, I remember when I would be in class, an acting class, with a real well-respected acting coach out of New York named Bruce Ornstein. Shout out to Bruce. And I'd be working on a monologue. And one of the keys that I remember he taught me was to, even though your eyes are open and you seem awake, you want to be in your mind at the place where you're connecting with the scene. So the same thing, if you're sending messages via video to people, social media, you want to have a person in mind that you're speaking to, because then you're going to have the demeanor, you're going to have the approach of how you would speak to that person, and that's going to transfer through that one message. Now, when you're acting, of course, it's not about the audience, it's about the scene. It's about connecting with the scene. It's about feeling the passion. It's about crying. It's about laughing. It's about doing what that scene calls for, and nothing more, nothing less. So if you're doing videos on Facebook and you're trying to market yourself, what I say is write and speak to that one person that you're thinking about with that message. And because most of us we're very alike, it's going to resonate with more than just one person. So keep one person in mind when you're delivering your messages. Yeah,
that's a very important key piece of advice there, Jamarr. And it's taught to people when they're going through copywriting as well, any type of copywriting training, is you need to build your avatar or your ideal client. in such a way that you actually give them a name. You know what gender they are, you know what their age is, you know if they have a family or not, you know what their income level is, you know what they do for fun, where they hang out, what books or magazines they read. And you actually give that, like I said, you give that person a name. So when you're crafting your message, your copywriting messages for all of your marketing material, or your writing, or even doing the videos, you're actually, when you're looking at the camera, you're picturing that person. You're picturing their pains, their struggles, their frustrations, their ambitions, and you're talking specifically to them. So you got to think of that camera is that person, and you really got to get into the mindset of connecting with that one. Because when you try to talk to everybody, your message is not heard by anybody. When you talk to that one person that you have identified as your ideal target market, then your message is going to resonate with all the people who are just like that. And they're the people that you actually want to do business with, that are going to connect with you on that level. And when they watch your video, they're going to think, wow, that person, she's talking directly to me. That message was meant for me. I can feel it. And that's how you do it, is you need to get clear on your ideal target market or your avatar, give them a name, and even if you're cut a picture out of a magazine, put it up by the camera so that you're looking at it and you tell your mind that that is the person. You know their struggles, their challenges, and you frame your solution around those challenges, and you'll find a huge difference with how you're connecting with the individuals than the way that you're doing it right now. So that was a great piece of advice, Jamarr.
Well, thank you.